Welcome to the Childcare Director's Chair, the podcast for bold educators who are ready to lead, grow, and shake things up in early childhood education. Whether you are a teacher eyeing that lead role, a lead stepping into leadership, or a center owner dreaming big, this is your space to grow with purpose and leave your mark. Hosted by heart-centered leadership coach Erica Sacoccio, each episode brings you real talk, actionable tools, and a contagious laugh or two, all designed to help you step into your next level with confidence. So pour your coffee, pop in those earbuds, and take your seat, because your leadership journey starts right now in the Childcare Director's Chair.
Hey guys, it's Erica here with the Childcare Director's Chair podcast. I have my two favorite girls on. We have Kate and Carrie with us today. And I want to ask you a question, my friends. If families weren't just informed about what happens in a classroom, but truly partnering with you on their learning journey, like what would happen? So when schools and families work as pilots together instead of passengers, children thrive. And today we're talking about what a strong school and family partnership really looks like and how educators can build them with intention and trust. So joining us again is Kate and Carrie. You know them. They've been on our show so many times and will continue to be on the show until my mic shuts off forever. So let's talk about some practical strategies and deep insight for, how do we make these partnerships, matter and last. So let me ask you first question. When you talk about families and schools being co-pilots, what does that really mean in practice?
It means knowing what the families value so that you can communicate things to them that they care about, as opposed to things that they have absolutely no interest in. They're not interested, one parent is super interested in the diapering log for their kid, and another parent is like, I know you have to do this because licensing says so. So knowing which parents are particularly interested in specific areas of development or things like that. Communicate.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole secret. Just communicate. I think also with that communication piece is make sure you're coming across as a professional, but also remember who you're communicating to. So we can talk about all of the different components of development and curriculum, but if you start using too much of the vocabulary, if they start to gloss over a little, then, it's going to kind of defeat the point. So you want to connect personally, professionally. Like, I'm not saying it's kind of like, anatomy terms, right? So you don't want to use a baby word when a grown-up word is the more appropriate. But you can use a grown-up word without having to use an industry education buzzword. Like there's a happy medium in there.
I think that, say the parent is really interested in making sure that their kids are going to be ready to read, and that's one of their hot button issues. I think we need to use the term phonemes, but we need to define the term. And we can't just say phonics because they remember Hooked on Phonics and they're like, that was dumb. That didn't work for me. And so by using some of the industry terms, but defining the terms, I think is important.
I think too, the age of the child really, every family is different, but the age of the child definitely, I think, is a factor too. I think when you have an infant, they're really focused on safety and nurturing, and not that a 5-year-old doesn't care about safety. They do, but in a different way. I think your 5-year-old parents, your 4 and 5-year-old parents, they're really worried about that preparation for kindergarten, where your infants are, they're not worried about getting ready for kindergarten.
I've had parents in an infant room that wanted letter flashcards in an infant room.
Sure.
And we had to have a conversation.
That's not the majority. They want to know, are you holding their child? Are you nurturing their child? Are they going to sleep right in the crib? How often are you washing their hands? And, so I do think age of the child is a factor in general terms.
Which is the age. And I think both of you kind of hit it without hitting it with that, which is that the developmental stages. And I think one of the things that this is where the teacher gets to be the professional, and as an administrator, as the director, this is where your job is to help coach your teachers so that they're using the words, the phrases that are accurate and helping them understand why do you do what you do when you do it, right? So, if you're a play-based program, you can still absolutely be academic ready, kindergarten ready, school ready, whatever the term is you want to use. Because if they don't have the physical ability to sit in a chair because they aren't doing the play they need to do, then they're not going to be academically ready. And so this is for the directors listening, this is your job to help coach your staff and help make sure your staff understand the ages and stages, the development, and how all that works with your program's curriculum.
Yeah. Good point. Always love having you on the show, guys. I also love just so for the folks who don't know, although most of you do at this point, they're cousins. And I love when they feed off each other. It's amazing. So why are strong school family partnerships so critical in early childhood education specifically?
Well, to me, it's actually from a business standpoint, and Carrie probably has her own viewpoint, but from a business standpoint, it has everything to do with keeping those families. Because you're going to put so much time and energy into that family. You want to retain them. You want to keep them. And if you don't know the lifetime value of that client, and again, it's more than just the money, but I'm going to talk to you about the money because that's just my job. And, if you're going to put the money in, the time and energy into developing a relationship, you want to keep them. And depending on how your school is structured, if they're anything like your multiple programs, you could stay with Erica for like 12 years. Well, that's a big deal. That is an investment into a relationship. But I'm sure Erica knows the lifetime value of her families.
Yep. I mean, I think that's one thing, but also if you want the children to develop to their best potential, then you have to be working together with the parents, which means the parent has to trust you. And here's the harder part. You have to trust the parents because the parents have looked at other programs and all of that. We sometimes have a hard time trusting the parents because we have all of the baggage from the other parents who didn't show up on time, didn't bring supplies, ignored us when we raised an issue. And so we're putting the baggage of other parents who weren't trustworthy on our current clients. So we need to trust them and they need to trust us. It needs to go both ways. When I sold my last school, a big part of it was that I was no longer feeling very much trust for the parents. I was tired of parent excuses and things like that. And I didn't have grace in my heart anymore. And I just needed to take a step away. And the only way you can take a step away as the owner is that somebody else has to own it. And so I'm back to having a lot of grace in my heart for parents. But I think that that's not something we talk about very often, is the lack of trust from the administrators towards the parents. Trust that if you tell them it's picture day, that they're going to bring their kids in ready for picture day. And that if they don't bring their kids ready for a picture day, that they're going to suck it up. And their kid's going to have their hair all weird in the photo, and they're not going to be mad at you because they dropped the ball.
I think that's a great point, Carrie. And Eric, I'd love to hear your 2 cents on that whole, not just building the relationship, but the trust piece. I know it's really hard to not just immediately put people into a category and go, oh, they're over 30, they're a first-time parent, that kid hasn't been in care for 2 years, they've been at home with grandma, and not immediately start to form an opinion about what those parents are going to be like.
Well, what's pretty funny is that my staff will tell you, I actually am not that judgy at all. I really am not. And maybe because I was also someone on the older side when I had my kids. I feel like it really truly is a partnership, and what each family needs from me is going to look different, and what they want from us is gonna, how we deliver it is gonna look different. So I just think, just like we do with the children, we treat them as individuals, meet them where they're at. I think we need to do the same for families. And I think that, that's the way to treat it, and just treat people like people,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's 100% true. And that's one of those things that we need to support our directors and our teachers with, because when you get to that, I'm not trusting other people. We hate it when the parents don't trust us. And we have to remember that that's a two-way street. And if we're not feeling the trust, then maybe that's because, we're having some issues there.
I think the other thing too is, somebody can be with me 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, but that parent is going to be with their child for their entire learning, even when they're out of school, right? We've got older kids, right? We're still teaching them, right? That parent is with that child for life, right? And so we have to acknowledge that. We say parents are the first teachers. That is true. But not only are they the first, they're the last. We're only there for a period of time, a brief snapshot, if you will. So, as much as we can help the families and give them as much as we can as professionals, I do think at the same time, families are going to have to go with, what feels good for their family. And we do have to trust them because they must have saw some value in the relationship as well. They selected your school out of the 18 that are on the same road, right? They selected you. They saw value in you, your program, what you're offering, and you as a professional. So you have to like take some of that too and say, wow, they do trust me because they're kids here. So there is some level of trust and relationship that they also offered, to you on top of, like Kate said, beyond the money part, beyond the exchange of money.
The other thing I think that's really important to remember as directors who are coaching your staff is remember that you have the opportunity to offer additional training to your parents, because the last time I checked, none of these kids came with a user's manual. And even if it did, I got 4 kids. Every user's manual failed. They were all different models, and I got the wrong manual for the version I got. And so, take the opportunity to do more with not just your families, but the community as a whole. And, I think every child care center should just automatically be teaching parenting classes, and that there should be, every February across the country, every child care center should be doing, toilet learning 101 for the parents.
Yeah.
Before those kids are all naked in the spring. And so that when they get to be naked in the spring, we all know what to do with them. And, or at least when they start trying to be naked, maybe not everybody's kid's gonna.
Yeah.
But,
those children who learn how to undress before they dress, which is all of the children. And they're like, I'm going to do this. And you're like, please stop.
Yeah. There's something so simple for the listeners that are listening right now. Even if you are not inclined to go ahead and do PD for your families, all of your staff are doing CPR and first aid, and 99% of the programs, you're having somebody come in to do it there, especially if you have new staff, right? And you're not just doing research. Invite the families. That's easy enough. You're not even having to teach it. And we
and
just...
the grandparents.
And the grandparents. Yeah. I said families. Yeah. Families. I'm a family person. Yeah. So, it could be something as simple as that. And it could be people outside that don't use your school that get a chance to learn about your community, go into your school, see your school, meet the people from your school, meet the teachers from your school. Without it being a marketing event, it almost becomes a marketing event. Kate is like, oh my God, she's got like a bulb. Go ahead.
Just think of all of if you've been watching any news, even if you haven't, you know that people are going to be telling you as a director, you need to be an advocate, you need to do advocacy work. And some of you may be struggling with what that looks like. Well, every time you host, and I love your example, even if you're only doing it every time you have CPR and first aid, whether it's every year, every other year, always send those invites to your local politicians, right? So your local mayor, your county commissioners, but go up the food chain. Invite the counties, the state representatives, depending on how your state is structured. Some of us have really bizarre districts, so your person may not live anywhere near you. But hell, if you're in Rhode Island, your district is
should be navigable, is what you're saying.
We got districts that are longer from top to bottom than, half of New England.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think when we're talking about that relationship between the parents and the caregivers and the parents and the administrative team, it's we share our information with them and have them share their information with us. I think another great way to build that trust is you've got a parent who does dental cleaning in a pediatric dentist. Great. Have her come in and share information with the other parents and with the staff or with the kids, whoever they feel comfortable talking to. And so they're sharing the information, their expertise. You've probably got somebody who's making pizza somewhere and having them come in and share how to make pizza. Those kinds of things build that bond. And yes, it helps with the retention of that family for a long time. Because are you more or less likely to stay at a center where they value you as a whole person, not just as a mom or as a dad or as a Grammy, right? If they value you as a whole person and you found out that this one parent has a chinchilla and you're like, oh my God, would you bring it in? We want you to bring in the chinchilla. That creates such a much deeper bond than just we both care about this 4-year-old.
Yeah.
I care about you as a person. You love chinchillas. Bring us a chinchilla. We want to pet it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I want to pet a chinchilla, Kate.
And
It's not a problem.
I do like what you're saying. Take the talents of the folks in your community and think about ways that you can incorporate that into your program. What role does communication play, and how can educators move beyond like newsletters and apps to create true connection?
Talk.
Breathe
Which
the
obviously,
same air.
the three of us cannot do. We are so bad at having a conversation. I think the very first part is the listening piece. And that might be where at least Carrie and I struggle with each other, because we think we know what the other one's going to say and we want to put our 2 cents in before the first person was done. But
You don't know how to
listening
talk.
to those parents, listening to those parents, listening to those families, listening to what they're actually asking, and ask a question, because the more questions that we can ask, the less talking we can do, the more we get to know them, the better. So, if you've got a staff person who is unsure about maybe their English or the language of the families. So in my case, if I had a family that only spoke Spanish, I would be very reserved in using my Spanish skills because they are non-existent. And so I would try to come up with what are some phrases or things that I can ask, and they can just talk because then they're talking about themselves. They think that you really care. Not that you don't. Let me make sure that
They understand that you really care. They understand it.
And you're just talking and talking and talking. And it's a beautiful thing. And you're building that connection. And you don't have to worry about whether or not you're responding, because you just want them to tell you all about the child's favorite foods, favorite activities, how their weekend was.
One of my favorite ways to communicate with families, believe it or not, I really love is our parent board, which we have a couple of times a year. And it's very relaxed. We do it after hours, and we order some food, and it's a small group of us, like 7 or 8 of us. But I really enjoy that time. And some of my best ideas I guess they weren't my ideas, but some of the best ideas for our school came from those types of meetings. And particularly, we had started a long time ago when we were in doing accreditation for our after school program. We had started with the parent board 17 years ago. But that is really one of my favorite ways to communicate with families, because it feels so relaxed and genuine and authentic. And it's I don't know if it's just maybe because it's not necessarily child specific, but just programming that parents really open up. And so I would say that would be one of my favorite ways to.
I love doing it if you have like a big event for your program and being like, this is the committee that is working on that event, and having some staff and some parents so that it is everybody's event. It's not my event.
Yeah.
And then people get to know each other on a different level.
Well, I always like delegating. That always sounds good. Give that responsibility to somebody else.
All right. So maybe what is one small shift that educators can make right away to invite families to feel like true partners in their child's learning?
A small shift. I mean, I can think of some practices, but a small shift is a different question. So some practices are scheduling observation days, scheduling times for them to come in and be in the classroom for an hour to read books or, depending on the age group, right? But a small practice, I mean, give your staff a list of like 10 questions and say, ask each parent a question at pickup, because it will help to build the relationship. And if the teacher doesn't have to figure out what to ask Susie's mom, they just pull out a card as they see Susie's mom come and they're just like, okay, well, this question is for Susie's mom. So what is Susie's favorite pet that they've ever met? And now they can ask that question. So I think getting the staff in the habit of asking questions, because sometimes parents don't know what is important for us to know, and we don't necessarily know either. This child is all of a sudden acting all kinds of rambunctious when they were pretty mellow, and then you find out that they have a lab puppy that just joined the household, and you're like, that explains a lot. A Labrador will change the energy level of a child. So I think as far as a practice, having questions for the teachers to ask parents and make that easier. I think that's a good practice, and it's piggybacking off of what Kate said.
I think that I'm going to take that a step further, which is the biggest shift they could probably make is a pause or question first before the laundry list of this is what your child did, good or bad. Because I think that, especially as an educator, if you've had a stressful day and Johnny's parents come in and all you want is Johnny out of the room, we have to remember that the first thing we need to do is take a deep breath when we see Johnny's mom or parent or family member, right? And that we kind of go, okay, let's ask a question before we go, by the way, your child, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da today. And that we remember they don't really need, especially if you've already done half that communication in the app, or they can go look at themselves, right? You don't need to tell them all of the eating and pottying and all of that, because that's probably charted somewhere. Kind of like in addition to the question, challenge your staff to once a week come up with a really cool story of what each child did in the classroom over the course of that week, that during the week they can share with the parent. And for me, I would need a list so that I can actually mark it off and make sure I did it with every child that week, because some children are going to be really easy for you to come up with really cool example stories of, hey, they made up a story and they got 5 of their peers to play that story with them to act it out. There's going to be some kids that are really good and easy for you to come up with those stories. And then there might be some others that you're going to have to really concentrate coming up with a really unique, fun example over the course of the week.
What, you didn't like it that every week we just said, and Matthew built some amazing structures every week? That was the feedback for Kate's number one
Matthew
child.
Played in the sand all day, or, okay, sounds about right.
Well, guys, if this conversation was interesting to you or sparked something and you want to continue to learn and talk with Kate and Carrie, then you need to come join us at the Early Childhood Empowerment Conference happening May 7th, 8th, and 9th at the Crown Plaza in beautiful Warwick, Rhode Island. If you're looking for practical, relationship-centered strategies to strengthen your school and family partnerships and create more supportive learning environments, you don't want to miss their session. You also, if you're an administrator, you'll be able to catch them there keynoting on, what day is it? Friday? Thursday for the owners. Okay, that's owner day. So if you're an owner, you do not want to miss Kate and Carrie, but we'll tell you more about that session on another episode. So guys, listen, link is below. I don't know what else to tell you. I found the best of the best speakers all over the country that are flying here to meet with all of you. So get your ticket. Again, January, we have a BOGO right now. Buy one ticket, get the second for free. And that's it. I don't know. There's not much more I can tell you about that. So just get your link down the bottom, click it, get your ticket. We'll see you soon. And as always, thanks for tuning in to the Childcare Directors Chair podcast.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Childcare Director's Chair, where we believe leaders aren't born, they're grown. If something sparked for you today, share it, shout it out, or pass it along to the next bold changemaker in childcare. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with Erica Sacoccio for more real talk leadership tools and a whole lot of inspiration. Until next time, lead with heart, grow with fire, and always remember, the chair is yours. Now own it.